Right, we'll get started. We do have a lot of material to cover. Kuladvipa Prabhu, thank you for joining. So we'll start with the Mangalachiron Prayers. I wish we could, hopefully, Hare Krishna, Kripaniti Mataji, thank you for joining. Hopefully, in the temple, we would sing the bhajan of Srila Rupa Goswami, and it would be a really nice experience. Hopefully, we'll do it soon, but we'll get started. I'll offer my Mangalachiron prayers and we'll delve into the purpose why we are here in ISKCON. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhobhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Matsamo Nasti Papatma Naparadhi Chakaschana Parihare Pilajjame Kimbruve Purushottama Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yache Punah Punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhojo Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Rajoham Syam Bhave Bhave Pangum Langayate Shailam Mukamavritaye Shrutim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Krishna Chaitanyamishwaram. Hare Krishna. I thank you all for joining. And so today we will get into the actual nectar of devotion. And today we will spend some time on discussing the foundation. We are all here seeking love of Godhead and unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. Is it not? Anybody who thinks that they have a different, their goal of being here was different, please raise hand. We are looking here for unalloyed devotional service to Krishna, and the love of Godhead is the aim that we are here for. Anybody who had a different idea of what we are doing here? Not. All right. So that's a good starting point. But then the question comes is, what is love of Godhead? How do you get there? Are there any stages that are mile markers, as they say, on the way to identify where we are and what progress we have made? And even if perchance you have gotten the supreme goal of life, and it's a possibility that one can get by mercy of Krishna, the love of Godhead, which is rare but possible, as is mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. What are the symptoms of those? And often these questions are asked by the devotees to know where they are and also to understand where they should go. Because if there is no goal in life, then the mind is in a very disturbed state. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, disturbance is due to lack of a goal in mind. And what is our goal is very clearly defined here in the Nectar of Devotion. So we will today spend a lot of time on this entire chapter. Actually, we'll be spending time on one verse. Well, I'll share the screen today. All right. Does anybody have questions before we go ahead? We'll discuss a little bit about how to read the Nectar of Devotion as we go along.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, are we okay to record the meeting? Are we going to record the meeting, the class?
Yes, it is actually being recorded.
It will be recorded, Prabhu.
Yes. So let's see. We have the younger members of audience that we can call today. Rishi, you're there?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Can you please read the introduction and the first paragraph?
Oh, yes, Prabhuji. Invoking auspiciousness. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationships, which are called neutrality, passive adoration, servitorship, friendship, parenthood, conjugal love, comedy, compassion, fear, chivalry, ghastliness, wonder, and devastation. He is the supreme attractive form, and by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis, headed by Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Let his lordship's grace be on us, so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of this duty of writing the Nectar of Devotion. Impelled by his grace, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada.
Thank you. Anushri, next two paragraphs, please.
Okay. Next two or next?
Next two. The one highlighted.
Mm-hmm. Let me offer my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada and of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, by whose inspiration I have been engaged in the matter of compiling this summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is the sublime science of devotional service, as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India, to propagate the movement of Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami begins his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sri Sanatana Goswami, who is his elder brother and spiritual master, and he prays that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu may be very pleasing to him. He further prays that by reciting in that ocean of nectar, Sri Sanatana Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha and Krishna.
Thank you. Monisha?
Yes, Prabhu.
Please.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the great devotees and acharyas, holy teachers, who are compared to sharks in the great ocean of nectar, and who do not care for the various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are very fond of merging into the Supreme, like rivers that come down and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation, and the rivers to all the different paths of liberation. The impersonalists are dwelling in the river water, which eventually comes to mix with the ocean. They have no information, however, that within the ocean, as within the river, there are innumerable aquatic living entities. The sharks who dwell in the ocean do not care for the rivers that are gliding down into it. The devotees eternally live in the ocean of devotional service, and they do not care for the rivers. In other words, those who are pure devotees always remain in the ocean of transcendental loving service to the Lord and have no business with the other processes, which are compared to the rivers that only gradually come to the ocean.
Thank you. Gitamrita?
Srila Rupa Goswami prayers to his spiritual master, Srila Sanatana Goswami, for the protection of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the pure nectar of devotional service, from the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle in the science of service to the Lord. He compares their arguments and logic to volcanic eruptions in the midst of the ocean. In the midst of the ocean, volcanic eruptions can do very little harm, and similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord and who put forward many philosophical things about the ultimate transcendental realizations cannot disturb this great ocean of devotional service.
Ryan?
The author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work. That should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas, and simply by following in their footsteps we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity.
So I'll stop here. These set of verses that are mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, thank you all for those who have read, Ryan, Gitamrita, Manisha, and others. So these first step or the first paragraphs are the opening verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which are called the Mangalachiron Prayers. Srila Rupa Goswami offers, first of all, his obeisances to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and he says Akhila Rasamrita Murti, because this book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is about Bhakti Rasa, or the rasa that is derived from the mellows of devotional service. It is thus called as, and he offers his prayers to the Supreme Lord, who is Akhila Rasa Amrita Murti. So he is the personification of all rasas. Every single rasa that one has with the Lord is fulfilled by Krishna. And just before we go a little bit ahead, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has 4 words, which is Bhakti, Rasa, Amrita, and Sindhu. Bhakti is, what is Bhakti? Bhakti is devotion to Krishna, but we will get into more details of Bhakti little later. Rasa is, the exact word rasa, Srila Prabhupada writes, is difficult to translate. What exactly rasa in English is difficult. The only way you can understand what rasa is, it is the joy that comes from doing some service. For example, it is mentioned that a person, a man, he earns money and he takes care of his family, and there is some joy in that kind of rasa of doing some service to the family. So rasa is that. Amrita is nectar. Amrita can mean two things, which is nectar, and also Amrita can mean deathless. Mrit means death, Amrit means which is not having any death. So Bhakti Rasa to Krishna will carry us through our many lifetimes, and it's never going to die. And Sindhu is an ocean. This is an ocean of devotion. So those are the 4 words in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So then he offers his obeisances. So Srila Prabhupada, because he is doing the nectar of devotion, he offers his obeisances to his own spiritual master here. And then Srila Rupa Goswami, he begins to offer his obeisances to Sanatana Goswami, who is his elder brother, and he considered him as his spiritual master as well in terms of Siksha. It's a very beautiful relationship between Srila Rupa and Srila Sanatana Goswamis, where each considered other their master. Srila Rupa Goswami explicitly mentioned Sanatana Goswami as his spiritual master, but as in like Siksha Guru or a mentor. But at the same time, Srila Sanatana Goswami praises his younger brother as the best of the devotees. So there is that beautiful relationship between them. Then it is mentioned here about how, because the theme is ocean, and if you can see that the various paths of liberations are like rivers, like the impersonalists are the rivers that are merging into the ocean. Here, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that in the 12th chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna the question, which path is better? Is the path of personal worship better or impersonal realization? And Krishna mentions that the personal realization is better. The impersonalists will also come to me after a very long time. So impersonalists are mentioned like they are dwelling in the river water, which eventually comes to mix with the ocean. And so they think that merging into the ocean is the end goal, but they can't see that there are sharks in the ocean that are joyfully swimming in the ocean of Bhakti Ras, or they are enjoying the pastimes with Krishna. So, and then he compares those sharks to the pure devotees who always dwell in the ocean of Krishna Bhakti, and they don't end up going to the rivers, right? Gitamrita, you won't see sharks in rivers. They are in the oceans only. You don't go in a nice Mississippi or Colorado river and suddenly a shark is coming. They never come. They say, what are you talking about? The sharks are only in the ocean, never come to the rivers. So similarly, those sharks are compared who are always swimming in the ocean of Bhakti Ras, who do not come into these paths. Right. So, and then the most important thing we should do is that this is something that we can take home. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas. And simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. And that would be our goal. Seriously speaking, if we do not have the power that was given to us by Krishna, forget helping others or making others spiritually advanced, we ourselves will quickly fall down from the path of devotion. The Maya is so powerful. So these are the two things that are mentioned here. Now, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is, so here in this it is mentioned let's see if I can try it. Text. No, not text. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into 4 parts. This is the place here, right? So okay, I'll just escape it. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into 4 parts, right? Here it is. Like there is, and so what are the 4 parts? The 4 parts are the eastern side, the southern side, the western side, and the northern side. So these are the 4 parts, and like each of the parts have waves. So similarly, the eastern side will have also waves, 4 waves. Now, what are waves and what are you talking about, Prabhu? Let me just go back to doing something. Here, and then close this. So here, if you okay, this you have to clear. Huh? All right. Okay. Annotate. Close this guy. So if you can see, the total of Nectar of Devotion has 51 chapters. And please relax, we are not going to do 51 chapters for Bhakti Sastri. We are just going to do up till 19 chapters. So chapters from preface introduction to chapters 19, here 19, these are the Eastern waves, which we will do for Bhakti Shastri. From chapters 20 through 31, 34 are the Southern, and then Western and Northern. So the whole of Nectar of Devotion is divided into these 4 parts, but we will just do the first 19. Now in the 19 is called the Eastern portion, and there are 4 waves. Now let's go discuss that. In that particular chapter, we said there are 4 waves of Nectar of Devotion. This is chapter 1. Let's go to introduction. So in the first part, there are 4 waves. So the first being Samanya Bhakti, or general devotional service. What are the characteristics of pure devotional service? Is the first wave. And it is introduction and chapter 1, the first wave. The second consists of regulative principles for executing devotional service. And the second wave, the first wave is called Samanya Bhakti. The second wave is called Sadhana Bhakti. So Sadhana Bhakti is from chapters 2 through chapter 16. So when we start reading this, then we are doing, open it in a new tab. So when up till chapter 1, it is Samanya Bhakti. Chapters 2 through chapters 16 is called Sadhana Bhakti. Chapters 17 and 18 are called Bhava. And chapter 19 is called Prema. So these are the 4 waves of Nectar of Devotion. Overall layout clear? Any questions before we go ahead?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So why are we are not taught the remaining chapters? Is it due to the syllabus, or are they taught in Bhakti Vaibhav?
Yes, Prabhu. So Prema Prabhu, the Bhakti Shastri syllabus prescribes up till the 19 chapters, and Bhakti Vaibhava, usually we do the southern part, and then yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. All right. So Gitamrita, anytime, or Ryan, or Rishi, or Monisha, or is Vrinda there? Anushri. Just picking up, targeting younger audience. Hare Krishna, Priyanka Mataji, good to see you. When you are asked, Ryan, what are you doing in ISKCON? What are you doing with ISKCON? What would be your answer?
We are trying to cultivate favorable devotional service for Krishna.
Excellent. All right. But then, Ryan, people will ask, well, how do you define? Every time you read something, you always need a definition, correct? Anything you have to define. How do you define pure devotional service, Ryan? Or Gitamrita, or any Rishi, or anybody? So the whole class is going to be involved in this particular verse, which is Let's see, pick it up. Bhilashita Sunyam. All right. Let's do this one. It's a You're able to see it? All right. Kripaniti Mataji, or Priyanka Mataji, please repeat after me. Anya Bhilashita Shunyam.
Anyabhilashita shunyam
Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam.
Jnana karmadhyanavritam
Anukulyena Krishnano.
Anukulyena krishnanu
Sheelanam Bhaktiruttama.
Sheelanam bhaktiruttama. Prabhu, do I need read synonyms or just translation?
No. Just we'll do the words repetition. That's all.
Okay.
Just to let you know that this usually I give some freebies. So when I said this class is important, it was not just important from it's most important from the spiritual perspective, but from the exam perspective, it's really important. The reason being, this question will come in exam. This verse has to be memorized by everyone. This is one of the memorization verses. And I'm just telling right up front, this verse and its explanation will come in the exam. You have to prepare for it. If throughout your life, if you cannot remember anything else, and then I'll ask, I'm just picking randomly, please forgive me if you are not being called. It is no specific order. It is nothing. I just, this has a little bit of, yeah. So I'm just calling randomly. So please forgive me. Okay, Vrinda, if somebody asks you, Vrinda, that, what are you doing in ISKCON? You're taken initiation and you're doing all this stuff, but what is the purpose? What is your response to that? That's this verse. Please either see it from the screen and repeat it, or if you have from memory, that's fine. Brinda, your phone must be muted because it. All right, Bhakta Jesus, you're there? I'm going to go randomly. Okay, all right. Who wants to repeat this verse? Just either from seeing from the screen or from 3 more times we'll repeat and we'll get into the explanation. Yes, please. Please, those who raise the hand. Okay, we have so many. Mrigakshi Mataji and Mukta Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, do we repeat after you, or we need to read by ourselves?
Try by yourself. Anya, do it by yourself.
Okay. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulena krishnenu sheelanam bhaktir uttamam.
Okay, Mukta Mataji, please repeat after me. Anyabhilashita shunyam.
Anyabhilashita shunyam.
Jnana karmadhyanavritam.
Jnana karmadhinavritam.
Anukulyena krishnano.
Anukulena krishnanu.
Sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
Sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
All right, Ryan, you're next.
Anya.
Okay, go for it.
Anyabhilashita sunyam jnanat karmadhyanavritam anukulena krishnanu sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
Okay, so when you see like this, karma, adi, okay, so you repeat after me, you need to scrunch these words together. That is how the Sanskrit is pronounced. Okay, Bhumika Mataji, let's go. Anyabhilashita shunyam.
Anyabhilashita sunyam.
Jnana karma dhyanavritam.
Jnana karmadhinavritam.
Anukulyena krishnano.
Anukulyena krishnanu.
Sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
Sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We'll do 3 more till Naveen Daulat. Deepika Mataji. Okay. Anyabhilashita shunyam.
Anyabhilashita shunyam.
Jnana karma dhyanavritam.
Jnana karma dhyanavritam.
Anukulyena krishnanu.
Anukulyena krishnanu.
Sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
Sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
Gitamrita. Thank you.
Anya.
Yeah, go for it. Belt it out.
Jnana karma dhyanavitam anukulyena krishnanu sheelanam bhaktiruttam.
Good job. Anushri?
Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavitam anukulyena krishnanu sheelanam bhaktiruttama.
Excellent. Naveen?
Anyabhilashita shunyam gnana karmadi anavrutam anukulyena krishnanu sheelanam bhaktir uttama.
Madhav, Prem Prabhu, last, and then we can.
Anya bhailashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama.
Shruti Priya Mataji, since you raised last, please go for it.
Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama.
Thank you. So let's get into the explanation of this. In the previous Bhakti Sastri session, I had taken 2 classes of 2 hours each to cover this verse. But in the interest of time, we will try to do it a little shorter. This is the genius of Srila Rupa Goswami, that he gives what is pure devotional service. This verse is mentioned as Paribasha Sutra. Now, Paribasha Sutra means a defining verse around which the entire text revolves. So it is such an important verse. If you ever have doubts of what you're doing in ISKCON, then this verse should be remembered. If somebody asks you what is the goal of your life, this verse should be remembered. If somebody asks what is the highest achievement that there is ever existing, then this is the thing. What do the Vedas and the Vedic scriptures sing of or give one pointed answer? This is the verse. Then what can give me the highest happiness in life? This is the verse. In many, many places, this verse is extremely fundamental that one should know. So one should, I strongly recommend that you write down this verse on an index card. If you want word by word meaning, you can write down and you can write the translation. So the translation is given by Srila Prabhupada here. When first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. This seems to be a relatively simple and easy to understand. Now, is that extremely easy to understand, or is it more nuanced than that? What is the answer? Okay, we will start. Okay, 3. Okay, go ahead, Bhumika. Somebody raised the hand. No, Mukta Mataji and Bhumika Mataji hand are raised, so I'm not sure if they are asking questions or. Okay. So the important point is that this particular verse has 3 primary characteristics and 3 secondary characteristics. The primary characteristics are called Mukhya Lakshana in Sanskrit. Lakshana means characteristics and Mukhya means main or important. And Gauna or Tatastha, meaning one and the same, indicate the secondary characteristics of the verse. So there are 3 primary characteristics of this verse and 3 secondary characteristics of this verse. So far, so good. Everybody on page? Good. So the 3 characteristics or the primary characteristics is that bhakti for Krishna is Shilanam. Shilanam is one characteristic or one word that defines, this is one of the important characteristics, Shilanam. Then the second primary characteristic is called Krishna Anu. Krishna Anu. So bhakti is, and then the third characteristic is called Anukulyena. Now, Shilanam is defined as literal meaning of the word shil means to cultivate. So bhakti means to cultivate. Now, how do you cultivate? For example, if there is a farmer, he has a plan of what crops to grow for that season. Yes or yes? He has it in the mind and he envisages on what the crops are, how the fertilizers, what season do you put the crops, and he sees the end result of having some sort of he or she will have some end result in terms of fruit. And then that is the mental aspect of it. The physical aspect of it is you actually go into the field, you till the fields, you sow the seeds, and you weed out the, you remove the weeds and so on and so forth. So Shilanam with Krishna means that this bhakti is having 2 forms, which is the practical service to Krishna, by which you serve Krishna by cleaning his temple, cooking for Krishna, you are dancing for Krishna, you are doing so many physical activities. For example, a pujari might be doing, like physically, he or she is offering arati to the deities. Somebody is cooking, somebody is cleaning, somebody is constructing a temple, somebody is fixing the temple, so on and so forth. So these are the physical aspects. And the mental aspect is, one is thinking of Krishna. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaro. You can see that always think of Krishna, always, there is some feeling for Krishna. Those are called the mental acts of devotion to Krishna. So there is the physical and there is the mental. The physical is called Cheshta Rupa, and the mentally offering obeisances is called Bhava Rupa. So this is the aspect which is called Shilanam, which means to serve, which means to cultivate. Now, the second characteristic is called Krishna Anu. So who do you serve? Who do you think of? You think of? You think of the famous movie star? You think of the pole star? You think of Krishna. But then the bigger problem comes, and people justifiably ask this, what do you mean Krishna? So only Krishna, nobody else? Isn't that too narrow? Then what about Rama? What about Narasimha? What about Vamana? Are they not Krishna? They are not Krishna. Rupa Goswami is giving a very severely narrow limitation of Krishna. Is that a valid objection or not? So Rupa Goswami says, to answer that, Krishna can include his avatars and also his devotees. When you say surrender to a spiritual master, correct, and serve your spiritual master, well, spiritual master is different from Krishna, but the definition of pure devotional service is saying you have to serve Krishna only. Then why do you serve Guru? Isn't that a valid objection? So Krishna includes his avatars and his devotees, and the chief of whom is the spiritual master. So Krishna is that particular aspect. So far, so good. And then we'll do the Anukulyena, and then we will discuss a little more. Now, Anukulyena means favorable service to Krishna. Service that is pleasing to Krishna. So, who has studied Bhagavatam or at least remembers the episode where Varaha was fighting with Hiranyakashipu and Varaha was fighting with Hiranyaksha and Lord Nrsimhadev was fighting with Hiranyakashipu. There are phrases mentioned in the Bhagavatam saying that they gave pleasure to the Lord when these demons were fighting. I mean, the Lord was getting some pleasure. In fact, it is mentioned in the 3rd canto that Krishna wanted to fight. And that was one of the reasons why Jay and Vijay fell from Vaikuntha planets, so that Krishna could enjoy the rasa of fighting with the devotees. So, since the demons gave pleasure to Krishna, are the demons also must be devotees then, because they are pleasing Krishna? Another way, Mother Yashoda, we know the famous story of how she put the pot of milk on the boil in the stove, and she found that the pot of milk was overflowing. What did she do? Divyangi Lalita Mataji, what did she do? What did Mother Yashoda do? Did she kind of say, forget it anyway, I can clean up later, you know, the milk will overflow and I can clean up later? I have with Krishna.
She left Krishna.
She left Krishna. Was Krishna very happy that she left? Bhagavatam gives a very, very graphic description. Krishna became angry, his eyes became red, he bit his lips, you know, trembling with rage on how Mother Yashoda left me. So when Krishna was displeased, then Mother Yashoda is disqualified. She's not a devotee at all. How can she displease Krishna? Anukulyena means to please Krishna. How do we answer this? So Anukulyena means to be favorably disposed towards Krishna. That is the goal. I am always favorably disposed to Krishna, and in the process of doing my service, even though it might be that Krishna is not pleased momentarily, but because my intentions are always to be favorable to Krishna, then it comes under the category of pure devotional service. Anukulyena, favorably. So Mother Yashoda was always favorable. And in this case also, she wanted to serve Krishna, because we know the story of how that milk, you know, this was the reason. Mother Yashoda got complaints from the gopis that your son is stealing butter and milk and curds or yogurt from our house. And Mother Yashoda was scratching her head, you know, why is it? Am I not making good? And that's the one thing mothers will have. If your child wants to eat somewhere else, you will say, you know, what is she doing so different that I can do better, so that my child will stay home and eat. So Mother Yashoda was feeling like that, and she said, then she got the best. There were Padma Ganda cows. Nanda Maharaj had about unlimited number of cows, 900,000, so on. But amongst them, there were very, very few that produced such fragrant milk. And Mother Yashoda thought, I'll take this milk and I'll boil it on the stove and make yogurt and butter from that milk so that Krishna will eat. And when that was overflowing, she kept Krishna aside and placed it. So in one sense, she was serving Krishna. So Anukulyena means to be favorably disposed. And demons are not favorably disposed for Krishna. Therefore, it is so far so good. Then please understand that Rupa Goswami is genius. One of the challenges, as I mentioned earlier, reading Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Nectar of Devotion, is that Rupa Goswami is very terse with his writings, very, very compact in his writings. And when we discuss more and more, then you'll see how, like a very condensed, packed cotton, when you fluff it out, you'll see it keep on expanding, keep on expanding, keep on expanding. You'll not realize like how much is packed into it. So much is packed into this verse that we can discuss further. Now, for those Sanskrit scholars out there, wouldn't Krishnanu Shilanam is enough? So Shilanam means service. For Krishna, isn't that enough? Why did you add Anukulyena? And that is discussed a little bit because the demons are also engaged in service of Krishna, but it was not favorably given. So that's the reason why the Anukulyena or favorable is used. Then what about Anukulyena Krishnanu? Anyway, Bhakti, so this you don't need to use the Shilanam because hey, if you are Anukulyena Krishnanu is enough. That should be enough. But the Shilanam is used to indicate that devotional service is a sort of activity. It is not something mental. So there is that aspect. To indicate the Shilanam, it is used. And then you can't just say Anukulyena Shilanam, which means that for whom you are favorably serving, if Krishna is missing, it doesn't work. So Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam is all these three words are needed. Otherwise, we cannot have the pure devotional service. Am I jumping too fast, too much in, or please ask questions before we move ahead to the second part. Yes, Madhav.
So Prabhu, Jai Vijay's service, even they wanted to please Krishna because Krishna had this desire of fighting. Would that fall under this category or not?
So Jay and Vijay did not know the fact that they will be fighting with Krishna. Imagine, so here is one example. Imagine you are the CEO of the company and you have to, he says, engage me in a boxing match. Let's go engage in a boxing match. And you're a good boxer. How would you box with him when you're aware of that he is your CEO? You will box, like you'll go full force at him?
No.
But if there is a one person, if you get the rumor just before the match that somebody actually did something horrible to your family, or they stole your money or whatever, and the person who is fighting you in the ring is that person who actually did some harm to your family, how would be your mode of fighting?
Aggressive.
So the desire to fight was Lord's desire, but he covered them to enjoy the fight. Otherwise, they would never fight in that way. They fought to give pleasure to the Lord. So it was Lord's own internal desire. They didn't know. Jai Vijay had no clue on Lord's internal desires. They were externally thinking because they offended the four Kumaras, they fell down from Vaikuntha.
Got it, bro.
So because they were in the demoniac family, their service of fighting with the Lord doesn't constitute pure devotional service. Other thing, it's mentioned that Kamsa was thinking of Krishna 24/7, eating, sleeping, waking. He couldn't think of anything but Krishna. In fact, Narada Muni mentions in the Bhagavatam, how lucky are these demons? I'm not making this up. Is mentioned in Bhagavatam that how fortunate are even we, not fortunate. He says even we devotees cannot think of the Lord like these demons are able to think of Krishna in one pointed attention. But since Kamsa was thinking Krishna as his enemy, then that sort of Krishna Anushilanam, that exactly the words Krishna Anushilanam happened there. You are always thinking of Krishna. 24/7, you are thinking of Krishna. But it was not Anukulyana, not favorable. So that's why Kamsa cannot be constituted as pure devotional service. If let me see if I can pull up that verse from Bhagavatam. You'll be astounded at the amount of intense feeling they had towards Krishna. Let's see if I can pull it up. This is the one. Somebody can help me here. Let's see. I don't remember, but I should look it up. But Kamsa was thinking always of Krishna, 24/7 thinking of Krishna, to the extent that Naradas, I remember where it is. Narada Muni saying that, oh, even the demons are so, they are so fortunate. Let's look it up. This anyway. I don't want to waste too much time in this. Thinking, control, thinking. Yes, control, thinking. Fortunate. Absorption. Because he asked the same question: how is it possible for Shishupal and Dantavakra in presence of many exalted persons? And how is it that they attained that liberation? But that's a whole other topic which we'll come to. Where is it here? I'll pull it up. Next time I'll pull up, next time for the next class, I'll pull up both. I don't want to waste much time. But we'll go. So these are the three primary characteristics of devotional service. Then, okay. Then these are the three Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadhyanavritam. That Anyabhilashita Shunyam means without desires other than the service of the Lord. And Jnana Karma Adi Anavritam, which means that one's devotional service to the Lord shouldn't be covered by the tendency of jnana and karma. So let's go back to Srila Prabhupada's book. So here, this is what we'll do. Who can read? Please raise your hands, or somebody can put it in the chat, and then somebody can call, please. We need because we will expand on this. Ankita Mataji, you will call or you'll read?
Anything, Prabhu, whatever you say.
Okay, you call, Mataji, please start.
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay, somebody wrote in the chat. Anushri said she can read. Migakshi, I
Yes.
want to give a chance of who didn't get a chance to read till now. So who didn't get a chance to do. So
Malathi Mataji.
Yeah, please go ahead, Malathi Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The authorized descriptions of bhakti or devotional service following in the footsteps of previous acharyas can be summarized in the following statement by Srila Rupa Goswami. First-class devotional service is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. The purport is that one may also be in Krishna consciousness unfavorably, but that cannot be counted as pure devotional service. Pure devotional service should be free from the desire for any material benefit or for sense gratification, as these desires are cultivated through fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Generally, people are engaged in different activities to get some material profit, while most philosophers are engaged in proposing transcendental realization through volumes of word jugglery and speculation. Pure devotional service must always be free from such fruitive activities and philosophical speculations. One has to learn Krishna consciousness or pure devotional service from the authorities by spontaneous loving service.
Thank you. So, quick question. And before we go ahead, I want to thank Divyangi Lalita Mataji for posting the one that I was talking about here in that it's 10 to 24. Okay, 10 to 24. Thank you. That's the reason I missed it. This is the one that I was talking about. While sitting on his throne on his sitting room, while lying on his bed, or indeed while situated anywhere, while eating, sleeping, walking, Kamsa only saw his enemy, the Supreme Lord Rishikesha. In other words, by thinking of his all-pervading enemy, Krishna became unfavorably Krishna conscious. So this is not an example of pure devotional service or anukulena. It's not favorable for Krishna. Thank you. So one question I have. In Bhagavatam, did we read the place where Arjuna went to Krishna or Uttara went to Krishna when Parikshit Maharaj was being attacked in the womb, and they asked for protection from Krishna? Does anybody remember that? Well, is it pure devotional service then? Because Anyabhilashita shunyam, which means that there should be no other desire to serve except to serve Krishna. But how come Arjuna and Uttara, who are in the pages of Bhagavatam, asked Krishna for protection when they were being attacked? Is that a symbol of pure devotional service? Or even more importantly, if we are sick, if we are suffering from some medical condition, should we ask Krishna to protect us? Is that pure devotional service or not? Because Anya Bhilashita means no other desire. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, because it is a life-threatening situation in case of Uttara, and if whatever desires, whatever circumstances, difficult circumstances, if those circumstances are overcome, we'll be placed favorably in devotional service. So if we are aware of the ultimate goal, why we are praying, that can be considered pure devotional service, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. Other thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
And so, isn't it Krishna says, "Aham," like like father of everybody? So, if a child is in a problem, won't he or she go to the father for the help?
Okay, good angle. Good angle. Good verse. Anything else? All right. Hare Krishna. Sorry, somebody said something. Mangalachiron Master, you were about to say something?
Yes, Prabhuji. Like if somebody is devoted to Krishna so much that he don't want to desire anything for Krishna, but at the same time he cannot think other than Krishna. So I think for help also he can think only of Krishna, nobody else.
Okay, nice point, valid point. So here is the catch. It is said Anya means other, Abhilasha means desires, but Rupa Goswami adds the word here, the Anya Abhilashi Ta Shunyam. So Abhilashita means desirelessness, not completely desireless. Let me explain that. My goal of life is only to serve Krishna, and if the service entails, for example, my body to be present, then asking Krishna to protect me doesn't violate this definition of pure devotional service to Krishna. Because without the existence of my body, I cannot serve Krishna. So, but it has to be very, very carefully done in an extreme circumstances. Well, some people might say, well, you know, Krishna, give me a Mercedes Benz or a BMW. Why? Because, you know, I need to serve. I need that to serve. No, that is not pure devotional service. It is something without which it's the extreme example. It's a temporary example. It's an example that's life-threatening. So that's why Rupa Goswami uses the word not anyabhilashita, not annabhilasha. Anya abhilasha means no other desires, zero desires. As in, if you are eating, for example, how is eating related to Krishna? Of course, to an extent it is tied with prasadam. But then, for example, do we eat prasadam all the time? You know, sometimes it might be that there are chances that you cannot eat food which is directly offered to the deities and coming to the plate. So when you are eating like that, is it pure devotional service or is it not? So you can see how the desire should be only to serve. That is the thing. But incidental stuff, that should be okay. Is that clear? Am I making sense? Yes, Kripati Mataji and Pratibha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Okay. I just want to comment or ask. In the last verse of the Sikshtaksaka, there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that, you can do whatever situation I want to serve you, you can hug me or, I don't know the exact words, but so is that, reflecting as, in the same situation? You get my point.
Yes, I get your point. So the last verse is Aslishya vapada ratam pinashtumam adarshanan marmahatam karodva yata tata va vidhadatu lampato matprana nastas sevanaparah. And the meaning for that verse is, Krishna, either you can give me your embrace, or you can completely neglect me by being a debauchee. This is actually the highest realization of Radharani towards Krishna. And this is more on a context of, on the level of Mahabhava. That is one aspect. But in general, for neophytes like me, then my take from that is whether Krishna so-called gives me protection or doesn't give me protection, I'm always his devotee, or I'll never flinch from his lotus feet is my attitude. So one thing is, let's look up that particular verse that you pointed out. Asli Shavapadaratam Pinashtmam Adarshanan Marmahatam Karotava Yata Tata Va Vidadalam Pato Matranana. So the translation here is, let Krishna tightly embrace this maid servant who has fallen at his lotus feet, or let him trample me or break my heart by never being visible to me. He is a debauchee after all and can do whatever he likes, but still he alone and no one else is the worshipable Lord of my heart. So this is more of Radharani's pralap or her thing. And while this is on a level which is very different, but we can take from ourselves that, what if we approach Krishna for protection, and if he quote unquote doesn't give me protection somehow or other, or we don't perceive it as protection, then still also, I will not budge an inch from Krishna's lotus feet. That's my determination. That's what we take from this verse. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mataji had a question after that. Yeah. Pratibha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, I had a follow-up question on the earlier point that, like, how do we understand then the incidence of Ajamil? Like, I think that he was neither favorably disposed nor unfavorably disposed. During an end time, he was just calling his son's name. And then why does he receive like the mercy of Krishna, like Vishnudut come and save him from Yamdutas? How do we understand that?
As we know the story of Ajamil, he was a very dutiful Brahmana, and for many births he had served the Lord. Incidentally, he fell down from the path of devotion. So he was not a demon to begin with, as the point number one. The point number two, Bhagavatam highlights the episode, is the fact that merely by chanting the names of Krishna or even Narayan in a way that is not even asking of him. The exact verse is Sankhetyam parihasyam va sthobam helanameva va vaikuntanama grahano aseshagaharam viduhu. That is the verse from Bhagavatam, where it is mentioned So this is the verse that is mentioned, Sankhetyam parihasam. Just now I said that. So Pratibha Mataji, if you can be so kind to read the translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. One who chants the holy name of Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, jokingly, for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures.
So he named his child Narayan, and he was calling out to his child. And so here it's clearly, if he chants indirectly, which means something else, it just shows the power of calling the name of Narayan indirectly, that all his sins that he performed in the company of prostitute were destroyed. And for those who are unfamiliar with the story, Ajamil was a very dutiful Brahmana, and he was perfectly doing his duties, self-controlled, peaceful, and all the Brahminical qualities. He was married, had old parents at home. But then he went to the forest to collect some flowers for deity worship. And in the forest, he saw an intimate scene between a man and not a high-class woman. And seeing that intimate scene, his mind turned, and he immediately started seeking the company of this prostitute. And he started to live with her. He gave up his wife and his aged parents. And to please the prostitute, he started doing so many sinful activities as cheating, gambling, murdering people, robbing them. And at the age of 88, he had a 5-year-old son called Narayan. And there is a big story on how he named him Narayan. And then when Yamadutas came, ready to take him to hell, and when he chanted the names of Narayana, even though he was indicating his son, it just shows the power of the holy names on how it destroyed all the sins that he committed, staying with the prostitute, and he was ready to kind of prevent from going to hell. Is that helpful a little bit?
Yes, Prabhuji. Just one more thing that, so in case of demons, is it like even though they even if they have some kind of unfavorable feelings for Krishna, they might still take name of Krishna, but is it because the accumulated negative karma is so much that even they take the name few times, that doesn't affect so much? And in case of Ajamil, it was for previously he was a good Brahmin, but there was just one fallback and then he took name. It affected him positively. That is how we should take it.
So if you can just clarify the question a little bit, I didn't get it.
So even demons who are unfavorably disposed, they might also be taking name of Krishna once in a while since they are so unfavorably disposed. So does that taking name of Krishna sometimes also helps them in removing their sinful reactions, or
not sometimes, Mataji, guaranteed times. The reason, all the times, the reason is Shishupal was the classic example of this. He was blaspheming Krishna right from when he was born. And we know the story of how he had a third eye when he was born and he was ugly looking.
Mm-hmm.
The sages said that, this third eye and other weird characteristics of his body will immediately go away when the person who kills him sees him for the first time, and Krishna comes and sees him, and immediately all his third eye and everything else goes away. His mother is overjoyed seeing that her child has come to normal, but she is horrified by the fact that her own nephew, who is Krishna, will kill her son, and she begs Krishna, please don't take offense to my child's criticizing you. And Krishna says, I will forgive him for 100 times. And from that time, Shishupal had just one thing going, that is blaspheming Krishna. But in the name of blaspheming Krishna, he took the name of Krishna many, many times. And then when he was killed by Krishna during the Rajaswaya sacrifice, using his chakra, he attained Sahajya Mukti, because even though he was blaspheming Krishna, he was mentioning the name of Krishna many times. So, yes.
Okay.
In fact, it's not even the name of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that even Muslims who say haram have Ram in the name of haram. So it's that powerful, that name of Krishna. And Mate, that is the only benediction for this age. If you see what is one singular thing that is actually going well for this age, is the names of Krishna. If that is something that truly is effective, that truly is easy, and that truly works. And so if we may not become great devotees, you may not read thousands of books and give hundreds of lectures, or run 20 temples, or become some GBC, nothing in this life, I can't do anything of these. Then if I am able to have this one conviction, that one firm conviction that by chanting the names of Krishna, I will achieve the highest result, whatever I think of. That's, you have learned all the scriptures, but that faith should be complete and the name should be chanted with attention.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I can't see the screen. I need some help seeing, are there any comments in the chat? Ankita Nathji, what else is going on? Is anybody
I think some devotees wanted to read.
Reading, okay, no more questions, correct? Okay, because
Yes, Prabhu.
All right. Okay, so Anya Abhilashita, Anya Abhilasha means any other desire. That is, I want to serve Krishna. That's my only desire. But it's not Anya Abhilashita means desire, no other desire. So that is the goal. As in, the incident desires might come, they won't hamper our Krishna consciousness. Right? Yeah. Is Kuladevya Prabhu there still? Kuladevya Prabhu, are you there? No, he left. All right. Let's read more paragraphs. Kids, how are we doing? Then, like, everybody's okay? Do you have more questions, comments, or everybody left? Horrified.
Oh, this is good.
Okay.
It's going well.
All right. Like, oh my God, which horror show did I jump in? All right. This is a very serious matter. Anyways, okay, next. Who are you calling, Ankita?
Prabhuji, Kripatita Mataji, and then Vishal Vasudev, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Okay. This devotional service is a sort of cultivation. It is not simply inaction for people who like to be inactive or devote their time to silent meditation. There are many different methods for people who want this, but cultivation of Krishna consciousness is different. The particular word used by Srila Rupa Goswami in this connection is anusilana, or cultivation by following the predecessor teachers, acharyas. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Without activity, consciousness alone cannot help us. All activities may be divided into two classes. One class may be for achieving a certain goal, and the other may be for avoiding some unfavorable circumstances. In Sanskrit, these activities are called pravritti and nivritti, positive and negative action. There are many examples of negative action. For instance, a diseased person has to be cautious and take medicine in order to avoid some unfavorable illness. Thank you, Prabhu.
So Shilanam is cultivation. We said that, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyana krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. So the last line is the primary characteristics of devotional service, which is favorable to Krishna, is for Krishna, and it is some sort of service. Shilanam. Good. So Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam is that the desire, there is no other, the desirelessness is complete, as in that there is only one desire I have, to serve Krishna, and everything else can seem a little incidental. I'll give few examples. Okay, quiz question. You can type it in the chat. The gopis of Vrindavan worshipped a particular demigoddess to have Krishna as their husband. Name the demigoddess. Excellent, Katyayani, excellent. Thank you, Gitamrita and Ankita and Deepika, Rishi, Priyanka, Mataji. Thank you. Yes, but how is that an act of pure devotion? The thing is, it is incidental. The goal of worshipping Katyayani was to have Krishna as her husband, as their husband. And so it's that desire to worship other things is incidental, and it is not against pure devotion service principles. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for example, okay, so we'll come to that thing later. So then what about the second aspect, which is jnana karma dhyanavritam? Okay, anavritam means covered. Jnana and karma. So when I perform bhakti, it shouldn't be covered with a motive of jnana, or it shouldn't be covered with a motive of karma. Let me explain that. You will say, Prabhu, this is totally useless. You are cheating us. Why am I cheating you? You said you shouldn't, our bhakti shouldn't have any jnana in it. But are we not doing jnana right now by reading Nectar of Devotion? Is that a valid question? You are teaching Bhagavad Gita. You are asking us to read Bhagavad Gita. You are asking us to read Bhagavatam. That's not me, but Srila Prabhupada is asking us. Is he not asking us to go on the path of Jnana then? And here you are saying Jnana is completely, it shouldn't be covered. So the explanation for that question is that Jnana here refers to the Mayavad Marg, or the path of impersonalist philosophers, where their whole process is, I perform some bhakti because my ultimate aim is Jnana and Jnana of Brahman. But to know the pastimes of Krishna, to hear the pastimes about Krishna, to read books on how to worship the deities, and kids for playing mridanga and for learning other things, that is all knowledge, but it is not the jnana karma dhyanavritam here. Jnana is specifically talking about the impersonalist way of getting jnana, where you read a lot of Upanishads and you read into Vedas and try to find, that is a path of jnana that is clearly given in the Bhagavad Gita. That is jnana. Karma. So for those who are Sanskrit scholars, after karma there is adi. Yes, what does adi mean? Exactly, the English translation of the word adi.
Is it first, Prabhu?
Geetamrita raised her hand.
Prabhuji, I might be wrong, but it doesn't mean etc.
Exactly. You are 100 points. Yeah, exactly. Etc. Jnana, karma, etc. But etc. means what? Something more. I have just terminated, correct? Yes or yes? For etc. So you say that, so Geetamrita lives in Austin, for example. I'll say, there are many states in Texas, Houston, many cities in Texas, Houston, Austin, etc. Which means there are more states or cities in Texas. Yes or yes? So here, what is jnana, karma, and adi? Adi means others. So the acharyas say it is vairagya is one, Sankhya yoga is another, and then varnashrama dharma. All these things. Our goal of bhakti is not for all these things. Our goal of bhakti is not to get vairagya or renunciation. Our goal is not to get into Sankhya philosophy or karmic rituals. So that is the adi. Now karma means that many times the devotees ask these questions. Look, I come from certain family and I have some traditions. Some, I need to do some rituals, or I have seen people do some rituals. Or they will say, you are asking me to surrender to Krishna, but what about these things that I need to do? So when we are, for example, Shraddha ceremony, that's a very big question people ask. Should I or should I not do Shraddha ceremony? Do you want to know the answer to that? What is? Pratima Mataji raised her hand. Is there a question? Yes, Rambabu. You're muted, Rambabu. I can't hear you. All right. We'll come back later. So karma means, the answer to that is, this is what exactly the acharyas have told us. Performing daily duties with faith out of fear of sin, if one does not perform them under the authorities of rule, is a covering of bhakti. So jnana, karma, adi, anavritam means my bhakti shouldn't be covered with the goal of jnana, which means that jnana is my outer goal and bhakti is like somewhere in the middle. So when I say, when I'm doing bhakti to Krishna, but then, oh, I have to worship this demigod, otherwise that demigod will be unhappy with me. If I don't worship Lakshmi, then I'll be homeless and be out on the streets in like 2 months. That fear of all these things, Rupa Goswami says, is a covering of bhakti. I shouldn't perform these duties out of fear of sin. The opposite number, performing them with great faith that they will produce bhakti, is also a covering of bhakti, which means I should please my forefathers, I should worship all these demigods, I'll perform with great faith so that they can lead me to Krishna. That is another covering of bhakti. So jnana, karma, adi, anavritam, it shouldn't be covered. Our bhakti should be pure. It is bhakti for the sake of bhakti, nothing else. That is pure devotional service. So far, so good. Is there more questions? Because this is a very important topic. This is very fundamental and one should understand completely.
So Prabhu, the Shraddha ceremony also that you were asking, that what was the answer for that? That is also not required for pure devotional service?
So, because the question is, well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did Shraddha ceremony for his father. He went to Gaya. He's the Supreme Lord himself. Why don't we do it? The answer is, if you do it without having any faith that will produce a bhakti to Krishna, and without fear that the Pitris will be very angry, then I'll be destroyed. Don't do it in a very detached way, neither having excessive faith in them, nor having a fear if you don't do them. In other words, a lot of times it happens, should I chant Hare Krishna or do all these rituals? I'll always say chant Hare Krishna, because that will produce, that is sufficient enough to cover for all the discrepancies that you produce that happen without doing all these things. Otherwise, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sham. When he says Sarva Dharman, means all these dharmas, that niyamita dharmas that you have, you can abandon them and completely surrender. But if you are not fully surrendered, then keep doing the duties. So my point is, do it with in a detached way, neither having excessive faith nor having excessive fear. And I can tell from my own personal example that my father passed away a few months ago, and I did the Shraddha ceremony for 13 days. For 13 days, I did the Shraddha ceremony. Not that I was afraid if I don't do it, then Pitris will hound me, nor to kind of say that if I do this Shraddha, then I'll get pure love of Godhead. This is something my late father wanted, so I did it. This was a social obligation that I had to perform. And there is also some scriptural context to it. So let me pull up here. Let's see if you can get this. Yeah. So he says that, when Prahlad asks, because yesterday was Narasimha appearance day, so it is said, Narasimha forces him, take some benediction, and he says, because then he says, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father at the time of his death has already been purified by your glance upon him. And he says that I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. That is the benediction of Prahlad Maharaj. Even this shows just the exalted nature. First of all, his father tried to kill him, but then when Lord Narasimhadev killed him, he's saying, I'll pray for my father, even though he tried to kill me. And you can see the exalted nature. And then Narasimhadev Bhagavan says, don't worry, because you are you're such a pure devotee that your father has been purified along with the 21 forefathers in your family. This just shows that if you have power of devotion, pure devotional service to Krishna, then everything else is taken care of. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Shudrida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Kritaho. That is that all the karmas are performed if you have this unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. But the Lord further says, he's touched by me, so there is no way he will have. But he says, your father has been already just purified. Nonetheless, the duty of a son is to perform Shraddha ritualistic ceremony after his father's death, so that his father may be promoted to a planetary system where he may become a good citizen. So he's giving a generic instruction. So neither have too much faith, nor have fear that not doing this will destroy my bhakti. Your bhakti can never be destroyed under no circumstances. Is that, does it help?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. This was great explanation that we should be detached to all these ritualistic things. Yeah.
Yeah. But then our faith should also get equally stronger in Krishna. Because otherwise there is that danger that because there could be that I'm not advancing in spiritual life, but at the same time, that's where one has to have like spiritual guidance and spiritual mentors who can tell you, what to do in terms of the spiritual advancement versus giving up the ritualistic duties. Fair?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. More questions, comments? Because this is important. This verse gives you the fundamental of why we are doing what we are doing. And if this is not clearly understood, then devotees can get sidetracked into so many things, especially for example, fasting. It will become a whole topic of itself. It can be, for example, astrology. That can get diverted. For example, ahimsa milk, for example, vastu, for example, varnashrama. There are so many topics that come under the karmic section that one places so much faith, then it is actually a hindrance in pure devotional service. But prematurely doing it with giving up everything, that might not be the best thing either. For example, Prabhu, why do I have to go to office? Sarva Dharman Paritya. I am an engineer, so my dharma is engineering dharma right now. I'll give up Sarva Dharman Paritya, give up everything. Krishna will take care. So you can see there is balance that has to happen, and the internal purification needs to happen when we come to that stage. And how do I know? By the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At one point, he just gave up. He said, you will know when you know, and you will know when that it's such a deep desire of the soul to serve Krishna that when that stage comes, everything else actually really has no meaning in life except Krishna. Till that stage, one has to keep doing one's duties. Is that helpful, Anushri?
Yes.
Pavani Bhakti Mataji, what do you think?
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you so much. It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because this Anyavilashita Shunyam has to be understood. It is one verse that you can go deeply within, and you can find all the possible objections which you should, and get it clarified. And you should be convinced that this is the definition of pure devotional service, and this is what I am doing in ISKCON. And this is a stage where even demigods cannot obtain, but by mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu we can obtain. Once in day of Brahma. Once in day of Brahma does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come. And he just came exactly 500 years ago. And one day of Brahma is 1024 Divya Yugas, which is in 430 million years. And in that one day of Brahma, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago to give the pure love of Krishna. And then he will not come for another 200 million years or so to give this holy name and to give this Krishna praise. So in that extreme fortune we are, and this verse encapsulated. So this will regenerate our whole thing on how exceedingly rare is what we are being offered at such a low price of just merely chanting the names of Krishna with faith. So, so this verse will come in exam. The explanation, I'll expect full explanation, because I'm saying I'll be very strict with this in terms of you should exactly know what this verse is. What is the three primary characteristics of devotional service? What is the three secondary characteristics of devotional service? And your overall understanding of this. Day or night, if somebody asks you, what are you doing in ISKCON? You should just be able to belt out this verse. Fair? That's the reason why I said this class is so important, because on this foundation itself, then the whole of Nectar of Devotion is built to understand what pure devotional service is, what Ahetuki of Pratihata is. We have questions from Ram Babu Prabhu and Akshay Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam. Prabhuji, maybe I have missed a couple of lines. So the secondary characteristics are the first two lines, Prabhu?
Correct. So the secondary characteristics are the first two lines, and the primary characteristics are the last two lines.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. And Prabhuji, as you explained, when it comes to karma, right, we may perform some ritualistic ceremonies without having faith to set an example or to fulfill the promise given to family members in the society. But jnana, right, if the jnana refers to some impersonistic jnana, why it has to be anavritam? Why it can't be sunyam, like anyavilashita sunyam?
Because then Rupa Goswami will include the jnana that we are getting from Bhagavad Gita also included in that. Right? Gyan, if you take a strict definition of Gyan, which means any sort of spiritual knowledge should be avoided, or shunyam, should be completely shunyam. No karma, no Gyan. So zero means literally you cannot do it. But when you say anavritam, it means that the covering shouldn't be there. Bhakti in of itself is the only means. Am I answering your question?
I understand. So jnana also refers to the devotional knowledge that we develop for. Okay.
It's because seriously, think about it. Deity worship. There are so many things that you have to learn in deity worship, and you have to read books. On one hand, you are saying serve the deities without offense. On the other hand, saying jnana shunyam, which means where is the reconciliation?
Right, Prabhuji. So I probably, I was in the class, I was hearing that it refers to impersonistic jnana or something, bro. That's the reason I was trying to. So it's a generic word used here, right?
So the impersonalists, their ultimate goal is jnana. They use bhakti as a means. So which means bhakti is like in a ball, and the outside covering is the jnana. Bhakti is just a means for you. Rupa Goswami is saying when you use jnana avritam, it means that it is excluding only the monistic philosophy, but including all the Vaishnava literatures that are composed for the satisfaction of the Lord. Because in that sense, they are also jnana.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. And if you want little bit, because then here, because here Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if you see, it's the title is only this, Jnana Yoga, transcendental knowledge. Now, Jnana Shunyam means don't read Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter. People can, if you logically put it like that, then it can be construed like that. So Rupa Goswami it's a genius. This composition is such a genius way you can barely pick a fault with it if you understand it properly. Yeah, that's a very beautiful question. Why is not jnana means also shunyam, or karma is also shunyam? If karma is shunyam, then what is the Lord saying here? This is, we went to the, where is this? The Bhagavatam verse just now we read, where Nrsimhadev Bhagavan said, you should, even though you're being a good son, you should do the Shraddha ceremony of the father, which means Lord is advocating karma. On the other hand, he's saying karma shunyam. How is it possible? How can you do both? So it's avritam means it's not the quoting, or the goal of your bhakti shouldn't be jnana or karma. Is that
Thank you. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Akshay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, and Pranam. Thank you for the class. I had one question, Prabhu, regarding the word karma, basically fruitive activities. So basically, I was thinking of an example, like if there's a student, let's say, and he or she is a devotee, but they have some desires of like getting a good grade or something like that, or if someone is working, they have a desire to get a promotion, something like that. So that is sort of fruitive like desire, but so does that affect this, Prabhu? Does it contradict this verse? But they are not praying to Krishna basically for that, to fulfill that desire. Like I hope I.
So Akshay Prabhu, if I understand your question correct, you said that there are devotees who pray to God for good grades, but they are not necessarily praying for Krishna.
No, they are no. I mean that they might have that desire, but they're not praying to Krishna to fulfill that desire. Like they're not doing their bhakti for getting like good grades or something. But they might, like while studying or whatever, they might get that desire to get good grades. So having the desire, does it contradict this this principle of your devotional service?
Honestly, it depends, because I'll tell you why. The gopis of Vrindavan, when they went to meet Krishna, they decorated their bodies gorgeously. It was mentioned in the Bhagavatam. They would decorate their bodies, but only with a view that decorating their bodies will give pleasure to Krishna. So when you ask for good grades, I can give a simple example. For example, I want to get good grades because I want to stay at a certain place where there is temple close by, and I want to serve the deities. And my good grades are going to help me to cover devotional. The bhakti is covering your karma rather than your karma covering bhakti. You are able to understand?
Yes, Prabhuji, that makes sense.
So, in one sense, Arjuna was fighting the battle of of Kurukshetra, and it seems karma because he was doing his karmic duties as a kshatriya. Yes, and in fact, Krishna is mentioning that you are a kshatriya and your duty or job is to actually fight this battlefield. And if you don't fight this battle, you will get sin. So it's more of karmic thrust that Krishna was giving. But because it is Krishna's order and satisfying Krishna, but the karma is on the top, so it is not karmic, but rather it's bhakti. Am I making sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. So basically what I understand is it depends on the intention.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find that. I think there is that exact quote here. Now or in the next few verses, it is mentioned on how Arjuna fought the battlefield for Krishna's satisfaction. And though it seemed karma, but actually it is bhakti because Krishna is satisfied. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you. So, when you want good grades for your own egotistic satisfaction, then it is not pure devotional service. But when you want it for Krishna, and that desire should be strong, then it's a different stuff. But having said that, young members of the audience, don't feel too encumbered by this fact, because you just need to do what you need to do to get good grades. And when you are constantly, in the mindset of, while it is good to have that mindset, but if you can manage to really work hard without getting affected by it, go for it. Otherwise, just do your best academically, and then when time comes, Krishna will guide you on how you want to progress. But the only thing you can do is keep that desire, pure desire in your heart, that I want to become a pure devotee of Krishna. I accept that I'm not yet there, but that's my ultimate goal. And if that goal is not wavering, then things will fall into place. All right, Rambabu Prabhu raised his hand once more.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, now, if you look at any serious devotee, right, who is sincerely practicing, looks like he is fulfilling all these statements of Rupa Goswami, at least for certain duration of time. And also in the definition given, there is no, constant devotional service mentioned, constantly performing. So the devotional service that is performed with sincerity for a particular duration of time, is that also considered pure devotional service when he is a serious devotee?
So the word Krishna Anu can mean two meanings. One is Krishna Anu means following in the footsteps of Krishna and his associates, and Krishna Anu means Nityam. So Nityam means eternally. So it means both. So in that sense, Anu also means to perform regularly. That's the word. Regularly is the word for it. Now, the reason why it is open-ended is because in the sadhana state, it's not possible to remember Krishna or perform devotional service 24 hours a day. You will just feel you're not yet there. And that is where the sadhana stage comes in. And for those who are in the sadhana, regularly means every day I chant my 16 rounds. Daily 2 hours I spend, or 1.5 hours, whatever time I take. That is my daily pure devotional service to Krishna. But those who are on the spontaneous platform, they need not be told. They are like, I just want to do it, and I continuously want to do it. So, and on the very advanced stage, you live for doing it. There is no other means of life except doing that. The gopis of Vrindavan, when Krishna left Vrindavan, they were about to die. They somehow barely survived. And the topics were constantly about Krishna. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm a little confused. Like, you mean to say the sadhana bhakta who is doing 16 rounds, so he's considered a pure devotee in that sense, Prabhu? Who is sincerely following?
Yeah, thank you. There are two kinds of pure devotees. Those who have the intention of becoming a pure devotee, those are already on the platform of pure devotional service. So as long as your intention remains that I want to be a pure devotee, there will always be struggles. There will always be challenges. Somebody please look up the 11th canto verse.
So the consistency won't be there is what?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
I think we have 6 more minutes. Should I look up that verse or more questions? If there are no questions, I can look up that verse. It's a very uplifting verse. While you ask question, I'll look it up. Let's see. Hopefully I get that. I'm not sure. So okay, the wrong word. No. I'll look it up. Oh, it's a beautiful verse. Let me look up. I should have it in Paribasha. A really nice verse. Eleventh canto. I hope it's there in proper. One thing is, let's look at 11, 20, 12. Let's do that. Let's see. 11, 20, 12. This is one nice verse as well, but this is. Sorry, who didn't get a chance to read? I apologize. Quite a few people asked for reading, but I couldn't. Vishal Vasudev Prabhu, can you read the translation for this?
Hare Krishna, sure, Prabhu. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions.
Thank you. So this particular verse actually says that the sadhana stage that you have to do, and then you have to do your regulative, as in like, you do your job or you do other things. Because what happens prematurely if you give up is that since you haven't developed the taste and you are not doing any work, you will be having sinful reactions accrued. So to that extent that we reach the stage of spontaneous devotional service to Krishna, where you just don't want to do anything else, one has to do this. Is that helpful, Rambabu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. If I can find that verse, it's a beautiful verse. But anyway, I'll look it up later. More questions? All right. If there are no more questions, so this is the foundation of the devotional service. Please read this. My request to you is that you can read the first 2 chapters. So this is what we explained is mentioned here. Srila Prabhupada actually spends this whole introduction trying to give what is the definition of pure devotional service. And in the first chapter, in the first chapter, Krishna talks of what the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service are, and there are a lot of nice things. So we can do maybe 2 and 3 chapters, 2nd and 3rd chapter, 1, 2, and 3. So we'll try to cover 3 chapters in the next class. If you can read by that time, we can meet in 3 weeks' time. I think we are meeting on June 5th because there is a Memorial Day weekend following the next weekend, and we can meet on June 5th. Another final questions or comments or concerns? Please do ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Hare Krishna, Ishwari Radhanathaji.
Danvat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. I joined kind of late because I completely forgot about this class, and then I had some devotee friends over for lunch.
No
But anyways, I listened to most of it, and you already started the first chapter on Nectar of Devotion?
Introduction.
Introduction, okay. Okay, and you want us to just read that, and that's it?
No, so for the next class, we'll try to cover at least 3 chapters, 1, 2, and 3. So if you can read, then it'll be easier to kind of cover. At least I'll try to cover 3 chapters. I might go, I'll see how far I can go. And then that's what I was trying to say.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Haribol.
Haribol. I don't know if there will be a surprise quiz just to added incentive, but no, there won't be any surprise quiz. Mostly no. Mostly yes, I don't know. So please read the first 3 chapters. They are not, it's other questions, other comments. I'll stop sharing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I wanted to ask, like you mentioned in the beginning of the class, how to read Nectar Devotion, because it is a little different from Bhagavad Gita, which is more conversational and story. Like this is very theoretical. Like I think I have read 2 chapters, but I haven't retained everything. So how do we read it?
So my request to you is that when you read the Nectar of Devotion, usually you will get numbers. So be little cautious of the numbers. Let me give an example. I'll show what I mean by that, and then we can do that. You're able to see the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
All right. So when you get numbers, please note them down. As in, there are 5 kinds of liberation. So, okay, what are the 5 kinds of liberation? So that is one thing you can note down. And then you can see here that there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. So when you are writing in a pen and paper or online, if you read this chapter, when you hit these numbers, just make, okay, liberation 5 kinds and 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. And then you can get a little bit more understanding, and then you can see how many types of sinful reactions there are. So things like that, if you write down, then they really add up. And then we can connect the dots as we go ahead in the next thing. And you will see how it's so beautifully and logically laid out. Ankita.
Okay, Prabhu. So types, categories, characteristics, like those things I should make a note of. Okay, Prabhu.
Correct. So the other thing is, for every characteristics or every part, Rupa Goswami asks for, he quotes evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, for example, 11th canto. So this is not needed. In exam, I will never ask questions like, for this particular characteristics, which verse of Bhagavatam is asked. That question will never come. So don't worry about it. So
okay, Prabhu.
Yeah. So those things won't come.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Prabhu.
Shruti Priya.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that one can reach the pure stage of love of Godhead over time when they are following the 4 regulative principles, right? But during this time, even if you're, this is my understanding, even if you're following 4 regulative principles blindly, if you're doing anarthas, that is not going to help. I mean, that also is detrimental, right? Can you confirm? I mean,
yes. In Nectar of Instruction, as we read, the first ones is that Atyahara Prayasascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha Jana Sangascha Lalyam Cha Shadbir Bhakti Nashiti. Not the first one, the second one. So the word Niyamagraha is used. Niyama Agraha means to grasp or grab the regulations blindly without knowing why you are following them. Niyama Agraha means to deliberately violate the injunctions. Both of them are detrimental to bhakti. So just because one is following very strongly the regulative principles, and because I am doing that, and to have some sort of unnecessary pride in that achievement might not be actually helpful for devotional service. On the other hand, a person who thinks he or she is fallen, thinking that I'm really stuck in this material world with so many bad habits, and I have even trouble following regulative principles, but one has strong faith in devotional service, that devotional service will pick up. So it's a matter of attitude. It's a very important point that you brought up. And as we get further into Nectar of Devotion, where Rupa Goswami gives the regulations of devotional service, which are 64 in number, then you will see that if somebody is able to follow all 64, then there could be an artificial thing. Oh my God, people are just not even able to follow 3 or 4. I'm doing all 64. So you can see how it can quickly lead to a sense of entitlement, if you will. So one has to be careful about that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's one last.
Yes, bro.
This is Prem Sarova.
Yes, Prem Sarova.
So, yeah, to follow up on that question, I think one of the questions she asked was, what if somebody does anartha, but also unknowingly, but also doing devotional service very attentively throughout the life? So I think if I'm unknowingly doing anartha, that's a different thing. But if I'm somehow knowingly doing anartha for certain reason, I don't divulge, or nobody knows about, or just my mind knows, isn't that affecting my devotional service also? It's a devotional journey, some bhakti journey.
Okay. Can I clarify if you mean anartha or aparadha?
It's anartha or aparadha. Well, two are different words, is it?
Right. So anartha is my own deficiencies that I need to overcome, unwanted things that I need to overcome for practice of devotional service. Aparadha is more in terms of offenses against the Vaishnavas, or towards the deities, towards the holy names, towards one's spiritual master. So those are the kind of things, that offenses I'm talking about. So,
which means I probably mixed up aparadha with anartha. So yes, you're right. I meant aparadha.
Aparadha is a whole other topic, because aparadhas can quickly demolish our devotional service. And if aparadhas are more serious of nature, then even following regulative principles will become, they just won't happen. We'll just be swept away by mind. Because aparadhas are, minor and major aparadhas. Out of this, I think the major aparadhas is the Vaishnava aparadha. And again, there is a categories in there, and we can have a whole class on that. But be rest assured that Vaishnava aparadhas will even eradicate the spiritual strength and the self-control that one has to maintain one's integrity. We know the story of how Garuda wanted to eat fish, and Shaubari Muni was in the lake, and he said, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." And he cursed Garuda. He warned Garuda, saying that if you come and eat this fish, then you will die, or something to that effect. And he dared to curse even Garuda. And Garuda didn't say anything. He bowed, he left. But Shaubari Muni became a victim to a woman, and he couldn't even maintain his austere position. So rest assured, if aparadhs multiply, then they just erode the strength to maintain even the regulative principles. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you. And then there are major, minor aparadhs. It's not everything you say or do is an aparadh. There are major, minor aparadhs. There are aparadhs on who you do it, against what you do it, what's your intention, what is the level, is it sometimes non-verbal, verbal, sometimes physical. There are like multiplicities of this particular topic, and it's not the same. Everything is just not the same. So just like the law, everything is not the same. Speeding ticket is not the same as murdering someone, for example. You get the idea.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rambhav, and then we'll stop here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Prabhu. Prabhu, I just wanted to know the references for this book. I mean, is it only Srimad Bhagavatam, or how Rupa Goswami compiled this book?
So no, Rupa Goswami, bulk of the verses came from Bhagavatam, but he quoted from Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana, many tantras. He quoted from so many places to build on this particular treatise. But every verse that Rupa Goswami wrote will have definitely some scriptural evidence to back up his claim, even though he doesn't need to. But Acharyas setting the example for us, they make sure that there is always some quote to back up the claim. So.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Any other points, questions, thoughts, concerns? Ujjwala Rasamati. Rupali Mati.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the class. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Manjula Mataji, I didn't ask on you, or Sanskriti Mataji, you're all, any questions?
No, thank you so much for the class.
No, thank you. I will see you all in 3 weeks' time. Have a safe the Memorial Day weekend. And I'll see you all mostly on 5th June, if Krishna allows me. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha.
Parvanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank
you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.